I saw an article just recently, a couple days ago. Now, this is after I had my interview with Tommy Robinson last week, and I got my own gist of who he was as a person. Getting to hear him myself and chat with him over a few hours. It was a great conversation. The video's live on my channel still. You can check it out if you'd like. And I highly suggest it because you really get a view of who he is and why he's fighting the way that he is. And I read this article, and of course, the first thing that popped in my head was me having this conversation with Tommy last week, telling him about the similarities that I saw between him and Donald Trump. Over the past 4 years, I've been very clued in to what legacy media reports on, what Donald Trump actually does versus how they report what he does, right? Two completely separate things. There's very similar there's very few things that are true in what they report on, and of course Tommy Robinson is just the same. The way that the news media, the legacy media, the way that they attack Tommy Robinson, it's very apparent that they're trying to smear him and make him look like this alt-right, far-right, racist instigator, when in reality he's a British patriot who loves his country and doesn't want the citizens of his country being killed and robbed and conquered, really, by an invading force, which is what it really seems to be. And there's also similarities with a lot of the countries in the West, Canada and America as well. I mean, these people are coming in and openly talking about how they don't care about the country that they're moving to. Their number one, I don't know, thing that rules them is their religion. I mean, this is something that they actually said multiple times over in Canada, in Europe, in England. They are prioritizing their religion over the country that they're moving to. They don't care about the country that they're moving to. They're actually trying to change the country that they're moving to something that they see instead of actually assimilating. And Tommy sees the crime, the uptick of crime, and the things, the horrible atrocities that, I mean, I actually didn't know how bad it was until Tommy told me some stories about what was going on in England. I mean, I know some horror stories of what's going on in America as well because of the 20 million illegal immigrants that have since come into the border since Biden became president in 2021. Well, I saw this article and I knew instantly I had to talk about it. I had to bring it up and I had to cross-reference who Christopher Steele really is. Now, this is the article that I'm referring to. It's from The Guardian, and it says, far-right disorder had clear Russian involvement, says ex-MI6 spy. Oh my gosh. He's a Zionist. He's working for the Jews. Oh wait, now he's dating Muslim women. He's okay with that, but now he's working for Russia. I mean, the amount of the different stories that the people that don't like Tommy Robinson, what they spew. Honestly, it depends on which group hates him. It's a different story that they like to run with on who Tommy is. They know who Tommy is. No, they don't. It's all bullshit that they create in their mind. Well, this is from Christopher Steele. He says here, it says officials will look very carefully at online instigators such as Tommy Robinson. Let's read it. There is clear Russian involvement in the far-right riots. Security Service will be looking closely at the instigators, a former head of MI6 Russia desk has said. Christopher Steele, the ex-spy who compiled a notorious dossier on Donald Trump's relationship with Russia, said that security officials would be looking very carefully at the people encouraging anti-immigration riots in the past fortnight. I noticed that they left out the fact that the Steele dossier was proven bullshit. 80% of the entire dossier was based off of lies from one person, but they ran with it. Not to mention that it was the Clinton Foundation that was funding the whole thing. I noticed they didn't focus on that at all, did they? No, let's continue. I'll get into the details of that in a second. After a violent assault on a children's dance class in Southport last month, rioters attacked. That's it. That's how they report that. After a violent assault, notice how they just breezed right over that? Wow. Rioters attacked mosques. Oh my god. I'm sorry. This is I'm just going to read this and then we're going to delve, right? Police officers and a hotel in Rotherham housing asylum seekers. The unrest was whipped up by far-right activists online who falsely claimed that a Muslim immigrant was behind the attack. Okay. He was born in England, in the UK, right? His parents were both immigrants, and they were in an area that didn't give a shit about the country. Okay? So it was an illegal immigrant. It wasn't an illegal immigrant, but a violent assault that killed 3 girls. And how many other people got stabbed? Let me see. 3 children killed in a knife attack. A 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old got stabbed to death. And the citizens got upset. And the way that they frame it here, after a violent assault, rioters attacked mosques. I mean, holy shit. That's can you blame the people? They're getting really upset. It's like the straw that broke the camel's back. That's what it makes me think of. So much of this violence has been happening for a long time, right? And then 3 innocent children get stabbed to death, and the people want answers because guess what? The government wasn't giving it to them. No, they weren't even trying to defend them. There's people getting locked up for 18 months for posting memes and saying things online, words. And yet people who are perpetrating these actual violence are getting less time than they are. It's absolutely wild what's going on in England, but I'm not I feel like I'm getting sidetracked. Let's keep back to this article here. Speaking to Times Radio, Steele said of the riots, "I think it's clear there is some Russian involvement. The degree to which that's happened and the effectiveness, I think, is still out for question." I mean, when you look at the original disinformation that surrounded the Southport killings, that does seem to have come from a Russian-linked website. Oh my goodness. The origin of the false claim about the Southport stabbing perpetrator appears to be an outlet called Channel 3 Now, which is styled to resemble a mainstream American network news channel and mixes potentially AI-generated US and UK news material. This website posted spurious claims that the Southport attacker was on the MI6 watch list and was known to mental health services. This was amplified by prominent far-right influencers. I bet you can guess who they're referring to there. Let's click on the link, shall we? Oh, of course. It's Tommy Robinson. Everything is Tommy Robinson's fault. Of course, it says here that he fled the UK. Now, of course, we know that that's not true. He's not due in court until, I think he said something like October, and he had a pre-planned vacation with his family. He's with his kids. If he was running, he wouldn't. If he was running, he wouldn't take his kids. Well, maybe he would take his kids with him, but even still, he had a pre-planned vacation with his family. He is a father. I don't blame him. He's got a stressful life that he's choosing to be in. It reminds me of Donald Trump again. He doesn't have to be in this fight. Donald Trump doesn't have to be attacked, nearly assassinated, all these things that he's dealing with. Tommy Robinson doesn't have to have this fight, but he's acting like a father. This is what I told him last week. I said, I understand, as I'm about to be a father myself, I understand this fight that you need to have a future where you see your kids being safe in the country where you live in. I get it. I understand it. I want that. That's the reason why I'm so vocal, especially nowadays, after I feel that I haven't even met my son yet. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like after I meet him. And really solidify that I want to fight for a future that I see my son being free in. I don't want this totalitarian government, this dystopian landscape that they want to bring forth, this new world order, global government that they want to run the world and have a bunch of serfs, that we don't own anything, that everything's rented from daddy government. No, that is frightening to me. So, back to Tommy. I understand. I understand his fight. And seeing the way that the news media smears him, it's because he's waking people up. He had 100,000 people show up with him peacefully. And guess what? If he was truly far right, he wouldn't have been welcoming everybody from all different walks of life that all were there united, different skin colors, different religions, all respecting what England should be. I love that. English patriots, I understand that. I feel like there are those types of people everywhere, in every country. People that just want to live their life and not be killed, or risk walking down the street at night, or fear for their wives or daughters are going to be raped and killed by immigrants that literally do that. There's a man who straight up was released from prison because he didn't know rape was illegal. That was his argument, and he was released. That blew me away when I read that. I was so shocked, but that's a reality that we're living in right now. That they can just claim innocence because they didn't know. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be PC to lock him up if he didn't know rape was illegal. Oh, of course. Holy shit. But that's the mentality that they have. These people that are coming into these countries. Anyway, again, I'm getting sidetracked. I apologize. Let's go back to this article. Steele said that the security services will be looking very carefully at the instigators of these activities, including people like Tommy Robinson, even conceivably Nigel Farage, who incidentally said that they were being misinformed by the government about Southport. Oh my gosh. Or maybe the instigators that he's talking about is the actual news media, the legacy media that put out the idea that there were going to be far-right riots going on. And guess who actually showed up? It was the illegal immigrants and the far-left progressive rioters that went to combat them. And then they all patted each other on the back, celebrating some sort of victory, like they got the far right to stand down. They didn't show up because they were afraid of us. Or maybe they weren't even going to show up in the first place because it was all some concoction that was brought up by the freaking media itself to try to add fuel to the fire of the alt-right threat. That's the real problem going on in England. Bullshit. They made that up to have something to be angry against, to hold over Tommy's head like it's his fault, even though he was talking about not being violent at all. He was calling out the British men who were being violent to stop. Ring a bell? Let's go back to January 6th when the violent protesters were being violent and Trump was saying, hey, that's not us. Don't be violent. Please go home. Respect the people, the police officers, and let's be peaceful. That's what we should do. Be peaceful protesting. That's what's legal. They banned Trump after he made that video. Right after he made that video, boom, Trump got banned. Why? Because it didn't suit the narrative. It disproved it. I got to give a shout out to X. Without X, I would never have been able to see and or hear from Tommy Robinson himself. Of course, I was lucky enough to have him on my show to hear from him, to see his perspective, and then of course see the way that the news media portrays him. It's so obvious to me that it's the same thing. People are waking up, and the those generals of free speech, those generals that are out there fighting to maintain sovereignty and safety in their own countries, those people are being vilified. It's it's absolutely crazy. But then, of course, it makes sense when you realize that these are these Bilderberger groups that are really trying to control the world. They don't want borders. Borders are define countries. Countries have their own rules and are separate from other countries. When you take out all the borders, suddenly countries don't exist anymore. That's what they want. They're trying to disrupt the countries. They don't want this at all. They want to control us all. Okay, we're almost done here. Let me read the rest of this. Robinson, the former leader of the English Defence League, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, has been posting reams of material on platforms including X, praising anti-immigration protests from his holiday in Cyprus. At least they recognize that he's on holiday. But might I add, the English Defence League, Tommy left the English Defence League when he realized that there was actual alt-right, far-right people in the English Defence League. That's something we didn't get into the details, but I learned this by doing some more research about it because I'm curious. I wanted to know more about it. And it turns out he left because there were actual people that were instigating shit that he didn't like. Wow. Huh. More proof that he's not this far-right person, and he's actually more of just a conservative dad who's trying to save the future for his kids. Farage has come under fire for stoking conspiracy theories about the Southport attack, being questioning whether the truth is being withheld from us. He has said he condemns all acts of political violence. The Guardian contacted Reform UK for comment. I mean, the way that the media posted a picture of the killer, the guy who did the killing, stabbed the 6-year-old, the 7-year-old, and the 9-year-old to death. Remember that? Yeah. They posted the 11-year-old version of him in some, I don't know, what was it, like a play or something? It was I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on it. It was a Doctor Who something. It was like a special for Doctor Who, and he was dressed up like a doctor, but he was an 11-year-old. That was years and years ago. All right, he was now a grown man, or I think he was 17. But who gives a shit? If you murder children with a knife at 17, you should be tried as an adult. That's crazy. You take 3 innocent lives. I believe he stabbed a bunch of other people. I'm sure chat will inform me. But no. I'm sorry. You should get the full extent of the law if that's what you're obviously a criminal. Insane. Steele said security officials would be looking at things like their travel movements, which they've been in touch with, monetary transfers, and so on, because they will reveal or not, as the case may be, a pattern of behavior which can lead to some conclusions about the degree of which Russia has been interfering in this situation. Asked whether MI6 would be looking at Farage's movements and messages, Steele said, the security services require warrants, obviously, to do so. Really? You think that they give a shit about warrants? Sorry, obviously not. And warrants, obviously, to do some of that. But I think, essentially, looking at the communications, looking at travel, looking at financial transfers is the heart of this problem. If we're going to get to the bottom of it, certainly the government should be doing those things in terms of the instigators. Now, whether Nigel Farage is at the end of, in the end, is defined as an instigator of this, I don't know. The Prime Minister's official spokesperson said last week that ministers were examining the involvement of state actors in the unrest. Clearly, we have seen a lot of activity online, much of which may well be amplified, or have the involvement of state actors amplifying some of the disinformation and misinformation we've seen. Okay, now that I did a a report about 2 years ago. I don't know if you remember this or not, but it was about the three-letter agencies and federal agencies that had, I call them agent provocateurs, but they had agents on the ground in Trump clothing, hidden in the Trump supporters, okay, at the Capitol. A lot of them. And there were so many different federal agencies that were there that weren't even communicating with each other, all sending undercover agents to do what? What were they doing? And might I remind you that I was there on January 6th in DC. I watched Trump's speech. I was in the crowd. I wanted to hear the president that I voted for speak for the last time as president. Currently, to this day, that was the last time he spoke publicly when he was actually a sitting president. And then guess what? All the stuff that was going on at January 6th, the violence started before he even finished speaking. Okay? I was there. I in the crowd. Nobody started leaving because everyone was there to listen to Trump speak. So all the violence, all the people that were over there, they weren't even the Trump supporters. Obviously, they were state actors. So going back to this, that's what they just said. Clearly, we have seen a lot of activity online, much of which may well be amplified or have the involvement of state actors. Now, to me, when I see that, I go, well, agent provocateurs much? I mean, it makes me think of the whole story of them claiming that there was going to be a bunch of alt-right riots going on, and there was nothing. Nobody showed up. They set police all these different mosques because they thought it was going to be attacked, and nothing actually happened. And then they claimed victory like we scared them off. It wouldn't surprise me if the people that did show up were state actors. And to finish this quote, it says, and that is something that the NCA, National Crime Agency, and the DSIT, the Department of Science, Innovation, and Technology, are looking at in relation to what we've seen online. Some of the disinformation that we've seen online attracts amplification from known bot activity, which, as I say, can be linked to state-backed activity. Ministers have said they will re-examine laws about misinformation after online falsehoods contributed to the riots. Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, said the Online Safety Act that came into force last October but has yet to be fully implemented was not fit for purpose. Under the legislation, social media companies face fines of up to £18 million, or 10% of their global turnover, if they fail to take robust action against content inciting violence or terrorism. Man, these government people really think that they know what's best for the citizens. It's so obvious, isn't it? I mean, Elon Musk told the EU commissioner to go fuck himself. I don't know if you saw that, but it was glorious. Okay, so now I want to turn our eyes onto Christopher Steele, because I feel like we already know that Tommy Robinson is their, number one suspect, or at least the person they're propping up as the number one suspect of inciting this violence that they're seeing. Or maybe it's just citizens that are sick of their government not actually protecting them from a bunch of criminals that are actually just pillaging their land across all of England. According to what I've been hearing and seeing, before I even talked to Tommy, that's the image that I was getting in my head. Then Tommy told me some stories that just the media doesn't report on because of how atrocious they are. But Christopher Steele, yes, this is the man who came up with the whole Russia collusion, the Steele dossier that was touted as the reason that Trump was put in power by the Russians back in 2016. It came out in 2017 after the the Clinton Foundation basically funded the lawyers that put it all together. Absolutely insane. All right, shout out to my boy Nacho Business. He's actually in chat. Love you, brother. All right. I was like, hey, give me some information. I know I did an episode years ago about the Steele dossier. I could actually bring it up, but what do you got? And not a minute later, he was just like, doof, 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 all this information. I'm like, perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And this sums it up perfectly. Now there is a 5 minute video here that is really good. Okay, it is just this guy, Mr. Wilcock or Mr. Clintlock, excuse me, talking to Durham, the Durham report. Remember the Durham report when that was going to come out and that was going to, it was going to absolve everything and all. Like, well, it kind of blew it up a little bit, but no one seemed to really care, which just blows me away. Why Christopher Steele is even trusted at all, I don't know. But look, let me just read what Nacho put in. I'm just going to read this because he breaks it down pretty good here. The falsehood of Russian collusion has been debunked. Everything he said all sounds like knowingly, which sounds like treason. Dushenko, who was the primary source, 80% of the intelligence for the Steele dossier. The Steele dossier was done by Fusion GPS, who was hired by Perkins Coie, who represented the Clinton campaign. The Clinton campaign funded the opposition research that was done by Fusion GPS, which paid Christopher Steele for the dossier. See, connecting the dots here? Right. The Clinton plan, based on declassified documents and public record, was the intelligence information that was received at virtually the same time it came from the Australians, within a day. That intelligence included information that there was a purported plan designed by one of Hillary Clinton's foreign policy advisors to create a scandal tying Donald Trump to the Russian. Now, this is a clip. This is the quotes from the video. McClintock, did the President, Obama, receive this intelligence? Durham, on August 3rd, 2016, then Director Brennan briefed the President and Vice President, DNI, FBI, AG, and others. So Obama knew, Biden knew, Hillary Clinton knew. None of this was presented to the agents or the FISA court. Boom. All of this just got admitted on record under oath. McClintock, what would the FBI had learned if they looked into this information honestly? Durham, if before opening Crossfire Hurricane and checked their own files that the Russian provided some kind of assistance, there was nothing in their files that would corroborate that. Nothing. McClintock, was the Steele dossier true? Durham, there was not a single substantive piece of information in the dossier that has ever been corroborated. Christopher Steele is a liar for hire, okay? He's being used as a tool by this government system to try to convince people of his legitimacy somehow, that what he says in the intelligence world has any weight at all. He's now being used by the British government to try to connect Tommy Robinson to the Russians somehow. I don't really understand why Russia would even care about England being overrun or not overrun. I mean, what does Russia have to gain? Why would Russia be connected? They're kind of focused on other things right now. But anyway, I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. It's ridiculous. I mean, this all came out in 2021, 3 years ago. 3 years ago, we found out definitively that the Steele dossier was bullshit. And here we are. Somehow, The Guardian is reporting on Christopher Steele. Oh, you better watch out, that Tommy Robinson. And it's like, none of these big legacy medias at all even reported on the fact that the Steele dossier was bullshit or that Clinton was connected to it. I mean, Clinton didn't even have to pay fines for lying about paying through the grapevine for the Steele dossier. You think, imagine if Trump did that. Imagine if Trump set it up to make it look like Hillary Clinton was connected to the Russians. I mean, he got indicted and felony charges for mislabeling a check for hush money to a stripper that he supposedly slept with, even or a porn star, even though she was on record saying that they never slept together. Odd, I know. Look at this. The FEC fines the Clinton campaign for misrepresenting the Trump dossier funding. Yeah. Oops. This is like the most that you'll find about what went down as far as penalties for Hillary Clinton basically trying to set Trump up for actually setting Trump up as a Russian agent. Absolutely insane. This is a clown world that we're being told something completely different, that our eyes and ears tell us what it is. It is, oh, no, it's a lie. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's real. No. We see it. It's bullshit. Okay? And they're just trying to convince us that no, Christopher Steele, he's got legitimacy. He's in the intelligence community. He did the whole Steele dossier. It's like, holy shit. That's how they opened the article. The first freaking thing. Christopher Steele, the ex-spy who compiled the notorious dossier on Donald Trump's relationship with Russia, which we know is bullshit. It was proven. It's proven bullshit. And then Hillary Clinton got fined. Just fined, by the way. That's it. It was just a fine that she easily paid off, probably with taxpayer dollars. Wouldn't surprise me. Maybe. Who knows? She's probably worth millions of dollars anyway from just being a government employee somehow. Anyway, this I mean, I'm just blown away, and I am here to help Tommy fight. I am here standing with my fellow patriots. Like, I might not be a British citizen or British patriot, but I understand your fight. I'm here to support you in any way I can, because I am all for a free world, a world filled with sovereign citizens that make their own choices, that come to their own conclusions, and are not kept by the government. I think that less government is needed, and the world is going in the wrong direction when I look at the government of England and the United Kingdom and the way that they're just being the most authoritarian. I thought Australia and Canada were bad. California was bad. Well, California's pretty bad, actually. They'll steal your kids and trans them right in front of you, and you can't do anything about it. But wow, it's just absolutely insane. So I wish you well out there, all of my viewers, anyone who's watching this who's in the UK. I'm here to help you fight, and hopefully I can get Tommy back on to continue voicing his fight. So I wish you well.